Another update on this patch here. I am in the habit of wandering out at night to have a look there with a headlamp, because at night you can see structures more clearly. There is less distraction from all the sunlight, but now I can film during the day so that you can see something. It's much easier during the day in that case. So I'm going to show you a few of the details that I discovered yesterday. So the first thing, but it's also one that already showed up earlier in another video, this palyculture tree moved its leaves towards the sun, towards the early morning sun, and for most of the day. So you can see this is clearly angled, and in the back there is the corn. So they found an arrangement. The corn goes up and the palyculture seeks the sun in the other way. Also noticeable is that they all grow at the same rate. I think I mentioned that before, but it's a confirmation. So except of the corn leaves that are pointing out a little bit, they all are of the same height. You can also see the sunflower there. So that is going to be a sunflower. So this is this Miyawaki principle. They all try to keep up the pace and grow at the same speed, basically. We also had been looking at this guy down there. The leaves are dark green, which is positive. So they are getting light. And this is not dying. So that's good. This one here is new. This is the red ochre. It showed up finally. There are certainly a few more in there. Also, we cannot really see them. But that is the other plant that we seeded here. You already know these two guys. So that one there and the other one over there. Those are the palycultures on the side that seek the light in the afternoon and during the day when it shines on their leaves. But as you can see, that one is in the shade, but it will receive light when the sun goes around. So they are coming along. Here we do have another palyculture that sits in between all the others. This one is trying to reach the top in order to get more sunlight. A very good example is that palyculture here in the center. It sits next to a sunflower, and the palyculture is over there. And this palyculture has grown tall enough to really receive full sunlight from above. And it was much smaller when this whole thing started. Once we are done with the water retention features in A7, we will then take the backhoe here and do something along that line in order to stop the water, or hold it for longer before it runs down the slope. And that is then also the place where we want to establish another Miyawaki forest. Check out the project page on kaimito.eu, and that is where you will find more details about what we are going to do there, what to plant and all that. I need to update a little bit the list of plant species, but then the forest will only be planted in October next year. So that's October 2023, and we are still many months away from that. So right now this is all prep work in order to add more biomass to give a good start for the new forest. These boys and girls think about the alfalfa pellets, the supplemental feed. It is Friday and the guys are distributing additional straw here so that they have enough for the weekend. And we keep them here for the time being When there is some rain, then 3 weeks later it will be green and we can take them out on pasture. We wanted to bale graze in zone A, but that did not work out because of the issues with the electric fencing. The soil is too dry and therefore the fence does not work. And it's not worth the hassle, they destroy more than it does good. So instead we apply the goodness here. And over time we have the other type of fencing, similar to what we have here, because that definitely kicks them in. Also, it's not perfect, as you can see in this stretch here. It does a much better job because this part is negative, and if I would touch also the wire, then I would get shocked with 11,000 volts. So they know that, and therefore they won't challenge it. And if they do, they get reminded. So that is a much better type of fence. Also, it's far from perfect, because you can see this is good material, but it is very, it's not installed the right way. But we knew this from the beginning, but it kept the pigs in for a very long time, and also those bovines. The future of this is that we will redo this a little bit when the time comes, and we create smaller areas inside of this, because this is 4 hectares and we want to have an animal lane looping through here, and then subdivide this into smaller pieces of maximum 5,000 square meters in size. So there will be a lot of fencing work, but we will do this as we plant things. So the strategy going forward is to have something like that, more or less perfect, around areas where we plant, so that nobody gets to nip on it ahead of time. And as we go, we will then have more and more fencing in all the proper places. And for the time being, they apply biomass to this area, at the same time feed themselves. And in there are already many pregnant cows again. That is just what happens. As soon as nature says you are ready, the bull will smell this. They even drink the urine of the cows to check, and therefore they are ever reproducing. And we won't sell anyone, and beef might come out if something happens, like the last time, the tuberculosis cases. And if 2 bulls fight and one loses and cannot walk, well, then there is beef. So basically, like in Africa, when something bad happens, that animal feeds the predators, and in our case it feeds the people. So it's pretty much the same idea, and we will keep this up this way, no production, until we have a much larger herd. And then of course we will do population control, and that means here and there is beef, but it's not beef in the industrial way, where you make sure that you have enough beef to keep the pipeline filled. There is no pipeline. If there is beef, it's a byproduct of our regenerative activity. hope we get a chance to recollect all this house manure, because it would be great to apply this to the trees in the wannabe food forest. Of course, once it rains, it will be integrated into this piece here, and there we actually want to build something for the horses, so a training area for horses, and therefore we don't need good soil there, but that is what they declared as their toilet. And it's a little bit sad in the conflict, but we will see how it goes. It is not the most important thing, because we have to take care of so many other things, but it would definitely be good to recover this and move it to a better location. What we also thought about is this area here where the solar panels are right now. We could build some sort of a stanchion that leaves enough sunlight going through to the ground and make a market garden here, at least for our own purposes. Because that area is kind of to the side, is an odd shape because of those boulders there, and maybe that is something that we can pull off. So we thought about this, and maybe next year we get it started in a small scale, just to learn about how to do this. But of course, another experiment. Life is full of experiments, and definitely it applies when you are trying to build a farm from scratch. When the rain is back and everything is green and we have all the grasses, we will do our rotational grazing by taking the bovines from one paddock to the next. And then we will also see what the increase in carbon content of the soil has then changed the soil and provided us with the benefit that we are hoping for. And by the way, this soil here does look different. So it is much darker than it used to be. Of course, it's not yet perfect and it is dry, but this soil there definitely has a different color to it than when we first got here. So all these truckloads of straw that we used here in this area, I would think over time we added 4 truckloads of straw just in this area here. This is definitely making a change. So it is well worth the effort, but of course a rancher who is a beef producer and needs to make ends meet might not be doing the very same thing, but every context is different, and in our context there is a plan, a long-term plan, to turn this whole area into a very productive piece of land. So something productive should grow there. Here we have the driveway, then we have areas where other productive things happens, zones playing different roles. Then over there we have the animal lane, and in all the corners something will provide something over time. So therefore these 45 hectares, at least that is my aim, should be a very, very productive integrated system. So that's what I think agriculture, regenerative agriculture is about. And by the way, thank you. One of you sent me a link to a playlist from Australia where a soil scientist is explaining regenerative agriculture. And I created my own playlist. I shared this in the community section of the channel also, and I have also added a page to kaimitu.eu in order to indicate where that playlist is, because it's a very, very good explanation of what regenerative agriculture is all about, the general principles, and I can definitely see that this is working. So we feed the soil, that's basically the point, and we use livestock to help us with that process to speed it up. Of course, this will not be fields with some crop in the traditional sense, so you won't see a tractor ever here, Well, I should probably not say ever, and might be a very small tractor, but could be. But as we have pigs, and the Valle de los Pedroches is the epicenter of the Iberian ham, that is from acorn-fed pigs, we can use pigs instead of a tractor, instead of a machine. So it's a different way of doing it, but it's still the regenerative idea, and probably more so, because we are picking and choosing all the good things that are out there from past and present techniques in order to make this work. And like I said, this is a lot darker than it used to be, so that must be the carbon content. And despite the fact that it's dry, this, once wet, should then provide nutrients to plants. So we are in the right direction, I think. The bed plant, the ragwort, is also present here. It showed up from one day to the next, and now it's there for a stay apparently. So as you can see, there are a few more. This is the area that we want to turn into a paddock once the situation with the tenant has fully cleared. And in the past, that used to be a well. This thing is full of water, definitely. See if we can peek inside a little bit. So, as you can see, there is water in there. It's not a functioning well because in the past they added some crabs to it, and that basically destroyed the structure of the well. So we are not using this, it's just there. But as you can see, in the past they used it to water livestock here in this area, because this whole place here used to be a gathering area. And once the issue with the tenant has cleared, we will then put a fence more or less along that way, so in parallel to the stone wall, so that there is a road, but that road is not cutting this place into two pieces. And I came here to show you a little bit the water level of the pond, of the big one. So there you have it. It is low, but there's still a lot of water in there. So once the rain comes, this will quickly fill up. This will never go dry because there is a well, and this well has not been dry. And I mentioned this a few times, this has filled up in August after it had been dug to 1.5 meters, because we do have water in here, in that soil. So in that 2-3 meters down there is water. Now the only issue is to get this loosened up and full of plant roots, so that the water level rises a little bit and more plants can access it. And it might well be that these palovnias over there have already achieved this, because we are giving them only a little bit of water once in a while, and they grow. So it seems to work. Of course, they're not growing as fast as others in very loose soil, but they are there and they are doing their job, and over time this will then improve the area. Does not mean that we will continue the way to plant them as we did here. So we will always use the excavator and loosen up the soil mechanically in order to get a better result quicker. I think that's legitimate. But we have learned our lessons and are now applying them. So I think step by step we will see more positive effects. And hopefully this January we get around to plant wine along this fence. So My hope is that unlike last year, now things go a little bit smoother and we can set the fence posts. We have them, the big ones, really big and tall ones. And once this is done as it should be, in January we can order the wine plants and set them here. And then later we can also have a harvest of some grapes and make wine of it if we want to. Would be interesting. So that would be then a very special thing. Of course it will not be a lot, but something. And that something is what counts.